Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Happy Pill Podcast. I'm creating a new series called The Conversations. This is an important time to be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and I, for one, am very excited about the guests coming onto the show for this series. There is so much that I need to learn, and I want to open up this platform for all of us who are interested in helping to make lifelong, positive, and sustainable changes with our beautiful sisters and brothers of color and create a world of true equality. These conversations are recorded using Zoom, so you will notice an audio change if you are listening to the podcast version. There is also a video complement that you can find on my website or on my YouTube channel called The Happy Pill Podcast. If you are compelled, please share these conversations with your loved ones. Have these conversations with your loved ones. I hope you enjoy the guests and the information and stories that they are bravely sharing with all of us. Thank you for tuning in. All right, welcome back, my friends. Here we are, part 3 with Nicole Pemberton. Hello again.
Hi.
I hope you are enjoying this series with Nicole. She is providing so much information. It's so beautiful, so articulate. I am learning a ton. I think I will sleep well tonight with all of this information. So as we continue on with the conversations, a Black Lives Movement. Why do I keep doing that? A Black Lives Matter movement. Goodness me. Let's provide some more information for everyone who is listening. Like right now, there is also a lot of sensitivity around language, dialogue, how people can ask questions. A lot of people are afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to say something that might be rude or just anything like that. So let's talk about terms and vocabulary, and for what people need to learn at this time. What can we say about that? What can you say about that?
I feel a lot of it is common sense.
Yep.
You know, there is a lot of it is common sense, and it really boils down to how would you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
How would you want to be talked to? And and kind of gauge the barometer there. If you think it is something, if it's, if you have a question, ask the question. You can't really be responsible for the person's response. If it might seem ignorant, or it might seem kind of a naive question, you can always preface it by saying, this might seem naive, but I just don't know. So I'm asking this question, right? And again, how a person's going to respond to that, you can't really control that. But I would say don't be afraid to ask questions, but also be open to the response that you get.
I think that's key.
Because there are, people in the movement that just don't want to answer, want to be, they've been inundated with the question of what do I do? How do I do? And it's just like, yo, we've been doing this for how long? We've been doing the work. So you go do the work and then come back to me with, let's have a discussion, instead of coming blank and be like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, go do something. Go get yourself educated.
Do some research.
But yeah, watch the movie, read the books, find the or have the conversations. Yes, but don't come in with an expectation of teach me. No.
Yeah.
No, like if I have a question about something, I'm going to look into it first before I go to the person and say, okay, this is what, and be them to them and say, okay, this is what I know. This is what I read, and this is what I've, but could you help me with this piece? I'm not quite understanding this piece. Or could you give me some perspective, right? That lends to a dialogue of saying, okay, this person has has already has done some of the work of like educating themselves. And yes, we can have this open dialogue, not as I don't know nothing, teach me. Like that's like in school,
Right.
right? In school, you go to school, you like the child puts their trust in the teacher to learn, right? However, we all know that like a full spectrum education is not just in school, right? It's in the home. It's what the parents expose their child to, and such. So going about it with common sense, and also, also for people to do their own research, um, and then come in uh, with a space of an open dialogue, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've been having lots of dialogue and conversations about, this exact thing. What do I say? How do I say it? I'm afraid to say it this way. And, we know what's genuine. We can feel what is genuine
Right.
and what is ignorant,
Right.
right? So when you're speaking, especially when you're speaking from a place that is not your experience, you want to be authentic and speak from the heart and speak with like non-judgment, and even say, look, I'm coming from it from this lens. This is what I've been reading. This is what I'm digesting right now. And then I'm opening the conversation up to really hear and to learn, and to also, do that critical thinking for yourself, so you can all be a part. We all are in this as a part of the change, a part of the evolution, the new paradigm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we regard people, the languages of like, what do I call you? Do I call you black? Do I call you colored? Do I call you this,
How
melanin,
about
or whatever?
how about
And
Nicole? Just call you Nicole.
exactly. It's like, start with the person's name. Give
Yeah.
the person the dignity and the respect to learn their name, right?
And pronounce it properly.
Exactly. Pronounce the name properly. And that goes across the board for all cultures.
Yeah.
Give them the dignity to learn the person's name and say it properly, instead of saying, well, can I just call you this? No! Not
Yeah.
unless the person says, I go by this nickname.
Yeah, well, because you're dehumanizing someone if you can't even take the time to properly pronounce their name. So if you
Mm-hmm.
need to repeat it 20, 30, 40 times in your head, do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But there's so many terms right now. Like if you go into the States, it's African American, or Black American, or here Black Canadian, um, and if you get in deeper, you have brown skin girl, brown skin man, melanin sister, melanin brother, um, people of color, or there's so many things. And I really feel that we really shouldn't get hung up on the quote unquote right way to address people. There's obviously outdated language
Hmm.
that we don't use anymore because it has that negative connotation with it.
Agreed.
But start learning a person's name.
Hmm. And I think, like you said, to preface it,
Mm-hmm.
like if they do have a question and they're trying to find a term to identify you, we talked about this in our prep about how
Mm-hmm.
people need to be identified. I'm like, oh, just Ursula is fine, and just
Yeah,
Nicole is fine. But,
yeah.
like, if you were to have an identity, you want to be identified,
Yeah.
as someone, ask, would you like this pronoun? Is it okay for the term to be colored, or is it person of color?
Mm-hmm.
If that is in someone's sphere, it's like, yes, this is
But
how you can refer me, but you have to ask.
yeah, like if
Yeah.
it's getting really technical about it in that sense, definitely ask how the person would like to be addressed
Yeah.
on a broad scale. Absolutely. For myself, I identify with, brown skin, brown skinned woman or person of color or woman of color. That's how I identify, because I mean, I understand where Black comes from, because again, if you go back to you seeing brothers and sisters from Africa and how they were brought in to North America and Europe, their skin was very, very dark,
Mm-hmm.
close to Black color. You know, it wasn't completely Black, but it was very close. So the labeling of a Black person, you know, came from that. But now look at it like the evolution. You know, it's not who, that's not my skin color. I'm brown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I as a kid, I got confused. I was just like, why do they say I'm Black? My skin's brown. You know, I got a little white on that side. You know, I'll look at the other side. I was like, I'm part of you a little bit. And kids were quick to say, no, you're not. You know.
Right.
But I look at and I'd be like, it's brown.
I think because some
No?
people are confused with different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you look at the East Indian culture, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or in other parts of Africa where they're not technically Black, but they are brown. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where people are getting confused. They're like, so, you know, what do I say? Okay, so you're brown. But then again, it comes to like ask.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
ask. Just ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you nailed it when you said we can tell when someone's being dismissive or you know disingenuine. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can tell when
Mm-hmm.
someone is really wanting to learn and not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so there we go. There we go, people. Let's just ask. Just
Yeah.
ask. Yeah. So here we go. So what do you think for right now? What is the best way to create change during this time and like sustainable change with this
Mm-hmm.
movement?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on
Um, the first part is to really do self inventory on yourself. Is the first thing. Really do that self inventory of how you are showing up in the world, how you are, what your language is, how do you regard people in the world, um, what are you teaching if you're a parent, what are you teaching your children, um, and it goes really deep on like how how children are playing, what do you observe. It really starts with yourself first, right? Because you can't go out there and change a system when the foundations of that system are already built on sand, right? So really fortifying you, like each one of us is part of the foundation, right?
Right.
So really taking self-inventory of ourselves, of how we show up in the world. And whether there needs to be adjustments in the mindsets or what have you, that is up to the individual. You know, it's as simple as, you know, when you go out, when you see people and you like pass people on the street, you know, if you go for a walk, do you see them? Like, do you look them in the eye? I mean, I had to check myself on that because sometimes I don't. I'm just like laser focus on where I'm going, or I just don't acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's those small things. You know, when you go through a building and you're going through a door, and the door, you know, has that hinge, and there's somebody behind you, right? It takes 2 seconds to hold that door for that person to go through, and then once they've got it, you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as
Yeah.
opposed to you go, you don't care, you let it close, and then the person, you know, it's the small things of how we treat each other in life. And then once you figure out like what you stand for, and if you're in a space of standing for equality, like you said, being a part of the change, then you really got to support and lend your voice. And there's many actions to do that, right? With dismantling the systems. For example, I heard about this on a podcast, how we view the colors of black and white, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's in kindergarten, it's in preschool. When you look at white, the color of white, what does that represent, right? When
Yeah.
we see that in media, when we like, it's pure, it's whole, it's healing, it's all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you look at the color of black. It's dark. It's, it could be dirty.
It could be
It's
scary.
scary. It's all these things that make you go, ugh.
Right.
So there's a systematic programming that is how, and we're passive about it. But if we look deeper, it's like, it's setting us up later on to view people in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So really deconstructing, looking at those things that may seem very passive, but it's like, oh, what is it contributing to, right? And that's how we dismantle the systems, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's number two. Number three, if we're going on a higher level, we're holding those places in power accountable to creating or dismantling those spaces of change. So when it comes to voting, when it comes to voting for your mayor, when it comes to voting for your president, your prime minister, whoever, when you're looking at how your workspace is, right? Your work culture, your community culture, what organizations are you supporting?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you putting your dollars in? What are you standing up for? So many people say that there's, we can't do anything because X, Y, and Z are in power. Well, who put them there? We did. Right? So we, like, as this movement is happening, it's happening because the people are coming out and saying enough is enough. And it's not just localized, it is it spread globally. So if the people can do something massive like that, then that should tell you that as a individual and the masses, you can affect beautiful change that benefits everybody, that brings us to a place of having this idea of all of us living in peacefully, freely, equally across the board, where everybody has an opportunity. And the systems are not set against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
We have the power to do that. We just, there's a momentum right now. We just can't lose that momentum.
Yeah.
Or else this will be like another rise, and then we go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing will have, there will be a little bit of change, but not a lot.
Right. It's
Right?
it's like that. It was a PBS documentary. Octavia Spencer had actually shared that. I think I was telling you about that before. And it's called Eyes on the Prize.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally sharing almost every decade this same movement was happening. The same protesting was happening, but there wasn't any sustainable change.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like we have a much greater opportunity to make sustainable change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a real activism to this
Mm-hmm.
movement right now.
Mm-hmm.
So here are some here's a question for you. What are some of the meaningful ways that people can support?
I would say start with looking at organizations that are in your community, right? In your city, of where you live, in your country, because there are many local organizations that, this is their mission. They are doing this work, and support them. Support them. And supporting is just as, you can give a shout out, let people know about them. If you feel so called to join the organization and get involved, right? If you want to take a step further, get it, work your way into positions where you can really be a part of writing the policies or to affect change. So like in Calgary alone, we have organizations like the Color Factor, which is organized by three beautiful ladies that have created a platform for mental health, particularly within the people of color community, right? BIO, BIPOC, and then you go across the board to, to the lesbian and gay community and all of that, right? The trans, all of that. So giving a specialized space, especially for those voices to be heard and to be able to heal and do the work and reconciliation, right? There is the Black Empowerment Fund that really helps. The fund is there to help different organizations to really fund the work of equality and justice. Any Indigenous organization,
Yeah.
our First Nations people, like, beautiful organizations that are there to really elevate the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a immigrant council for the arts, is a arts council that specializes in the immigrant experience and raising their voices and giving platforms, to equalize the artistic sphere, so many voices can be heard in many different platforms in the artistic community. Afros in the City is an organization that highlights the Afro experience, that highlights the different people of African descent that are doing amazing things across the globe. Another organization that is actually they had just started, called We Stand YYC.
Mm-hmm.
Basically taking inspiration from the Black Lives Matter movement, and also bringing people together locally to really increase the dialogue and the movement of change. So that's just in where we live locally.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to go broader, right, into our brothers and sisters in the United States, you have an organization called Black Girl in Om. Again, this is an organization, this is a wellness platform specifically for people of color, right?
Yeah.
Colors for Change, Obama.org, right? What Obama, which is really nice about Obama, is that he really goes in on the direct systems and places and strategies and solutions that can be implemented in government in those spaces. Then you have the NAACP,
Mm-hmm.
the National Coalition for People of Color, that has been ignited since the Civil Rights Movement, right? So these are just some organizations that, if people are inspired, to get involved. I just named some that are local to Calgary, Alberta,
Mm-hmm.
and some that are local or are a national platform in the United States.
Yeah.
Or global.
And just for you friends, like Nicole has provided all these organizations, which we're going to put onto the resources page, onto this podcast, so that people can start to do the research, look at it, share it, right? Help donate, help participate, be a part of it, right? These are just some of the steps to do. These are some of the organizations, to get involved with. Yeah, get involved with. How can people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me. You can pop onto my website, www.thegoddessmoves.space. You can send me an email. and I'm very active on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, just sending me a direct message. They want to explore this conversation or open up platform to have these dialogues, to really just, yeah, be a part, not be a part, but expand the dialogue and expand the understanding and expand the awareness, um, to what we're being called to right now.
Yeah.
You know, this is a call to humanity to recognize the biases, to recognize the systems, to recognize the passive behaviors, to recognize the injustice. Because we we are all connected. So it can't say, oh, this is only happening here. It's not affecting me over here. It's incorrect. So the call to humanity right now is to really do the work, do the self-inventory, check yourself, do the, and if there's trauma, there's things that there needs to be assistance and guidance and mentorship in really diving deep into the shadow and recognizing the experience, and the digesting of all of this upheaval. You know, there are resources. You know, I'm a resource, right? Through my womb wisdom illumination, we go deep. We go deep into what is alive and present and give clarity, but also inspiration and hope. So there is a body processing, there is an emotional processing, there is a mental processing, but there's also an energetic processing, releasing, and healing. And also a call to action. Because we don't just want to just stay in the past. We need to move forward with that active collective of solutions,
Absolutely.
of not taking that anger and that all that lower frequency energy forward, because that does not bring about change. Change comes with, okay, actively being a part of the solution. So in doing the deep work with holistic practices, with working with me, with mental health, with being active, you know,
Mm-hmm.
this is how we get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. 100. Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you've just completely brought all of this to a beautiful final close. This has been amazing. These conversations have been amazing. Your expression has been amazing, mind-blowing. And to all the friends that are listening, like all across the world, thank you for taking time to listen to Nicole. Thank you for taking the time to open up your heart space, your mind space, your energetic space to receive the information that Nicole is providing here through her story, through her experiences, and through her work and her advocacy work. So Nicole, I have huge gratitude for you for taking your time, all of your time, your energy, your wisdom in providing this for everyone to listen to. And my hope is that people will take this information and share it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Share Nicole's voice, share Nicole's story. Let's help one another. Let's rise up, right? So thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going like, I want to know what the goddess moves are. And we will do an episode on that work that you do, because when you were talking about how the advocacy of women's bodies, I am so out of tune,
Mm,
completely. And
mm,
for my listeners that know my story, they, I I don't even recognize with being a woman at all. So I got some
mm,
serious shit I need to work through here.
mhm,
So I'd love to be in contact with you about
mhm,
that over some time and go. But this has been amazing. All of this has been beautiful, informative, enlightening, inspiring, encouraging. So I thank you. I thank you with all of
mm.
my being.
Thank you so much.
Uh, mm,
Thank you
mm.
for opening the platform, and thank you for having this dialogue and this continued dialogue, because it doesn't just stop here. It continues on, and I appreciate the work that you are doing in really uh, expanding the dialogue and expanding the space for these uh, varied conversations from very different perspectives. And that's the beautiful of the that's the beautiful weaving of the human tapestry. We get to learn from each other.
Yeah, thank you. It's the least I can do. Thank you. I cannot wait till we do get to do this again.
Yeah.
So thank you, friends. Check out the website. Check out the resources. I'm going to provide all of Nicole's information on there on my website, ursulayourdone.com. Go onto the Happy Pill podcast. Go onto the blog, to the resources. Everything. We're going to put all this information up there. So thank you, friends, for joining in, and we'll talk to you next time. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you or someone you know is in immediate need of help, please contact your local authorities, distress center, or professional care provider. If you'd like more information on this episode or other topics, go to my website, ursulayourdone.com.